Okay, בשעה טובה. Now we're starting Perek Vav, the sixth Perek, right, of Shir HaShirim. As we discussed at the end of the fifth Perek, yeah, that according to the Malbim, now starts the transition from Olam Hazeh to Olam Haba of Shlomo HaMelech. And according to the Gaon, we had spoken about the relationship between the Nefesh and the Neshama, right, in Borah, and its interaction, and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for the ma'alot of the Neshama, of the Nefesh, in order to build this connection and interaction, and bring and shower upon the person his Ruach Kodsho. The pasuk says the following: Ana halach dodi, Ana halach dodech. So in the previous perek, right? In the previous perek, we know that Shlomo, the Neshama, had doubt, or had a little bit of a setback to actually face HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And when he stood out of the bed to go and open the door, פתחתי אני לדודי חמק עבר, נפשי יצאה בדברו, ביקשתי ולא מצאתי, קראתי ולא ענני. When Shlomo HaMelech finally opens up to try to reconnect, according to the Malbim or the Neshama, to bond with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? The relationship is no longer there. Remember? And comes all the attributes that the Neshama, Shlomo HaMelech, that everything is, who are we looking for? Who are we looking for? And all the end of the fifth perek is about the definition of the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, according to the Gaon, and according to the Malbim, the interaction and the influence the Neshama had over the Nefesh, over Shlomo HaMelech, trying to reconnect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he lost that connection. We spoke about it. So now we're asking a question. Now the Gviyah, the body, or the Nefesh, asks, Ana halach dodech, where did your beloved go? Okay, we're looking for it. Where did it go? Hayafa banashim, the beautiful, the nicest, the finest of all women, talking to the Neshama. Ana pana dodech, in which direction did it go? So there's a difference between where did it go and in which direction it went. And let us seek and look for it with you. So both the Malbim and the Gaon, right, see in those two questions two nuances. One that will be, and we're going to see according to the Gaon, a way to reconnect based on those two questions, the connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And according to the Malbim, we will see that those two questions are more referred to the transition, to the passing on of Shlomo HaMelech. Right? So, Ana halach, where did it go? It's more general. Ana pana, in which direction? And unvakshenu imach, we will look for him with you. The word imach means with you, but we also have another word that can mean with you, is itach, right? I can say itcha or imcha. Both mean with you. But there is a very big difference between the two. Itcha is along with you, but not with one full heart, not with the same ideology. Imach means with you, with one heart and one purpose. Good. Here is how do we now support the journey to look for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's connection or for the transition to Olam Haba, Imach, in one full-hearted effort. The Gaon, I'm going to start with the Gaon. He says, there are two questions. Ana halach dodi, le'eze makom. Eze makom, it means how far did you disconnect yourself from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Ana halach. Ana halach. To which makom, to which places HaKadosh Baruch Hu elevate himself and disconnected himself from you? The delta between where he went to where you are. Very important. And you need that if you want to fully recover the relationship and the connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anapana, in which direction? Ana mahashavto umaasehu achshav. What are his mahshava? What HaKadosh? How is HaKadosh Baruch Hu now looking at you, thinking of you, and how does he behave with you? This is ana pana. This is the direction. When a person wants to strengthen, build, develop, reinforce his relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he's really looking for the bond, there are two questions that he has to ask himself. How far am I from him? Or how far is he from me? And number two, let me see his behavior with me. Is he showing me midat adin, midat hesed, me'ir panim? Do I see the siyata dishmaya? Do I see love and alignment in how he shows himself, he reveals himself to me? Is it hester panim? No, I have difficulties. Yes.
How do you know that? How does the person know if when something happens, it's din or hesed to him? Perhaps it's something that he thinks is not good and it's Hashem doing hesed.
Zevadai. But when a person is in sync, right? It's all at the end, even the din is hesed, right? But a person knows when he has siyata dishmaya. You feel like Kadosh Baruch Hu. When you're in sync, you feel it.
Okay. So when you're in din, also you know he's with you, so you are okay. So you are talking about when you feel disconnected.
Well, the Gemara in Masechet Brachot says, right? If a person has Yisurim, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is testing him, and Yisurim, the definition of a challenge, of a test from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of a painful test of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, could be Chaz v'Shalom, something that's really painful. Or it can also be putting your hand, like the Chachamim tell us, putting your hand in your pocket and wanting to take a quarter and you take a 5 cent. That's also called the Yisurim. It's when things are not aligned with your machshava, with your thought process. So if you're not aligned with it, if things are not aligned with your thought process, that means your thought process is not aligned with the compass. So the Gemara tells us in Masechet Berachot, if a person sees that he has Isurim, things are not aligned, Yifashpesh b'ma'asav, he should do teshuvah and see what he has to do teshuvah on. Lo matzah, he didn't see any averot that he did that he can refer the Isurim, the challenges to, and say, well, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is challenging, it's because I need to do teshuvah. Itle bebitul Torah. Then it's due to bitul Torah. Maybe he's wasting time. He's not learning. He has time to learn Torah and he's not learning it. Pishpesh velo matzah. He didn't find bitul Torah. There's no bitul Torah. There's no averot. There's no bitul Torah. Okay? Isurim shel ahava. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's sign of love, that although Al-Pidin, although he's doing everything right, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is expecting more. He's expecting more. Like a father that expects more from his son. Even though the son is doing great in school, and on paper everything, checks the box, but you expect always better. Yisurim shel ahava. So comes the Gaon Mivilna and explains that a person, anapana, in which direction did it go, is referring to the behavior, in the behavioral interaction between Hashem and the person, versus anahalach, where did he go, which is the distance between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the person. Obviously, we start by identifying the distance. Am I far from him? Is he far from me? He's only as far as I want him to be, right? Once I understand how far I pushed him away, then I determine, okay, how does that distance impact the relationship between us? And that's how we can actually start working in rebuilding the relationship. We're going to learn another pasuk to follow, since it's connected to the question. The answer to that, Dodi yarad lerano, my beloved went down to his garden. La'arugot abosem, to the beds of spice, to the bundles of spices. That's where he is. Lirot baganim, to browse and walk around. Lirot baganim, in the gardens. Velilkot shoshanim, and to pick flowers, to pick lilies. The Nefesh, the Knesset Israel, Am Israel, Ha'adam, answers to the two questions. Hello? We're back?
Back, perfect.
Answer to the first question. Anahalach, you want to know where he went? He went to his garden, to the bundles of spices, to the beds of spices. Says the Gaon, אין עולם הזה כדאי לו עכשיו. ונסתלק לגן עדן. The עולם הזה that dictates your behavior, that dictates your life, that your relationships, that your priorities do not align with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in order to have a relationship. So, Nistalek le Gan Eden. He disconnects himself. He goes to the Gan Eden. La'arugot abosem, and where in Gan Eden? Arugot abosem, the bundles of spices, says the Gaon, are the tzaddikim. That's they sit. שיושבים כשורות של בשמים, שורות שורות. In Gan Eden, the tzaddikim are lined up, lines. Like you go to a spice store, all the spices are lined up, one next to the other. Yirot baganim. Now, if you ask me in which direction, what's the interaction? What is he doing? להשתעשע עם הצדיקים. להשתעשע עם הצדיקים, the pirush is, he's looking for the interaction with the tzaddikim, with their Torah, with their behavior, with their priorities, with their midot. וללקוט שושנים, Hidushe Torah, he says. He wants the Hidushe Torah. He says, Yerod baganim velilkot shoshanim, to walk in the gardens and to pick flowers. He says to walk in the gardens is the tzaddikim. Right? To be amongst the tzaddikim, to be surrounded by tzaddikim. Lilkot shoshanim is to listen to their divrei Torah, to their hidushe Torah, and approve them so that they can come down to the world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu hears the hidush, accepts the hidush, and the hidush reveals itself to the world. This is what he's missing. So therefore he disconnected himself, because this is what he wants, and this is where he's holding on a potential versus a realization. When he comes down to you, this is what he is expecting from you. To each their own level. He wants a relationship with the tzaddik, to each their own level, and he wants to be able to approve ma'asim tovim. He wants to approve Hidush Torah. He wants to listen to the revelation and witness the revelation of the Or, of his light. And he approves it and crystallizes the beracha in the world that will then benefit the entire creation. When there is not that, he distances himself, because that's the distance you want with him. And now he is in the potential. He's in the Gan Eden, in the world of spirituality, which is where the potential lies and resides before it can come down to the world. אני לדודי ודודי לי, הרואה בשושנים, I am dedicated. I am a beloved. I am him and he is me. Despite that disconnect, my desire thrives because I am him and he is me. הרואה בשושנים, the one that browses, and he browses amongst the flowers, he רואה בשושנים. So we are taking the browsing of the gardens and connecting it to the flowers that he picks. In the pasuk bet, we have lir'od baganim, to browse in the gardens, velilkot shoshanim, and to pick the lilies. The Am Yisrael, Knesset Israel, the Neshama, certifies, reinforces, Ani ledodi vedodili, I am him and he is me, haro'eh bashoshanim, and he walks around, right? He wanders bashoshanim, in the lilies, amongst the flowers. And that's an answer of unvakshenu imach. Let's go and find him together. Let's go find, it says the Gaon Mivilna. What keeps us together? And why you should come with me and look for him? Because as much as I wait for him, he's also waiting for me. Says the Gaon Mivilna, two things. That as much as I wait for him, he waits for me. The intensity of that desire pushes away the zar, pushes away the Yetzer Hara, pushes away the outside influence and distractions by default. And the same intensity also, says the Gaon, reveals the light of Geula, reveals the light of redemption of the person as an individual, but also as the klal, as a community for humanity. So, which was one of the foundation of what the Rebbe Milubavitch based his avodah in his generation. Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Zer Tzadik Ukadosh Livracha, introduced in a very intense way the Hamtana, the importance to wait for Mashiach. And it wasn't just a subconscious idea that I'm waiting for him, but an actual emotion, right? With all the nigunim that he brought, ani ma'amin, again, be'emunah shlema, she'yavu melech HaMashiach v'chul. So his avodah was not just to introduce an awareness that we need to wait for Mashiach, but to actually wait for him in order to reveal more of his light of the Geula. That's the omek, that's the pnimiyut of his efforts to bring the attention to Am Yisrael and the world of needing to expect Mashiach, to expect the Geula. Now that's on a global, right? On a more general level. On a personal level, the more the person is waiting and eager to have a revelation, the more the light of his personal redemption becomes a reality. How does that work? Very simple. The more you expect him, says the Gaon, the more he expects you. The more you wait for him, the more he waits for you. That dynamic of love and of emotion results to what is called the Ora Geula. When a person needs the Yeshua from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he wants the Yeshua of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is what brings the person's Yeshua. רוצה השם את יראיו את המייחלים לחסדו. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the ones that fear him, the ones that beg for his chesed. So the more you show dependence on his chesed, and the more Hashem shows that he wants to give you chesed, and the more that dynamic brings to the world the chesed. The Gaon is the Shitato in Even Shlomo. The Gaon tells us, how do we know that the more you want independence and the less HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you Siyata Dishmaya of his own, meaning the less he takes care of you from the baby, right? The baby. A baby is fully dependent, cannot be independent at all. And Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu, God makes sure that he takes care of the person. The more the person becomes independent, and the more Kadosh Baruch Hu distances himself. So the distance is not because you grow. It's because you gain more independence. So the more independent you want to become, and the less HaKadosh Baruch Hu can be involved, because you proclaim an independence that by default pushes him away. This is what the Gaon is coming to tell us. The more there is a dvekut, the more you depend on him, the more you proclaim the dependence, the more you need the connection, the more he needs to be connected, because that's and that interaction creates and reveals what is called the Ora Geula of that person on his own level, in his own way. Which is, by the way, also, if we dive in it also a little bit more, the dynamic that the Baal Shem Tov wanted to pass on when he says that in Elul, Maze Elul, Ani Ledodi Vedodili, the first letters of Ani Ledodi Vedodili is Elul, right? And says the Baal Shem Tov, in Elul HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baganim, yeah, he's in the gardens. He comes down, he's with us. So says the Baal Shem Tov that HaKadosh Baruch Hu triggers a desire to come closer to us, even though it's not equal to the desire that we want to be close to him in Elul. Right? But why is he saying this? In order for us to really motivate ourselves to want to be close. And that motivation in itself is what brings HaKadosh Baruch Hu closer. And why do we need that proximity and that level of connection? In order to be able to be makir, to recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so that on Yom Adin we can proclaim his malchut. And through that, build the intimacy we need to be blessed with the teshuvah and the kapara and the yeshua of Yom Kippurim. Which leads eventually to what? To the strongest bond possible, that is the Man Simchatenu, which is Sukkot, which is Shmini Atzeret, Yemei Bracha ve'Ahava. This is the yesod that the Gaon brings to us in order to understand how a person can rebuild the interaction when he recognizes that there's a disconnect. בסדר? The Malbim, leshitato, based on his pirush and the progress of the life of Shlomo HaMelech, introduces now mitat Shlomo, the death of Shlomo. He says at the end of the 5th perek, the neshama has explained to the nefesh, to the body, how amazing and how incredible HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, and has convinced the body that ze emet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. So there's no longer fight between Benot Yerushalayim, right, the influences of the body, versus the neshama. Now the body himself, all the traits of the body, all the desires of the body, impulse and instinct of the body, are telling the neshama, Ana halach dodech. Tell us, where is HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Ana pana dodech. In which direction did he go? So says the Malbim, how do we connect also? Me, the body, with all the gashmiut shebo, right? All this physicality. How do I translate it into spiritual connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with you, the neshama? How do I go up with you? Ana halach dodech. He says, where did he go? Says the Malbim, is it a connection of Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah? Is it how we can also elevate ourselves? Do we, the body, need to include ourselves with you, the neshama? So in a form that will allow you to have nevuah, and if this is yafa banashim, you are the most beautiful one. And you know what? We will align ourselves with the body and the kochot, of the body that has always interfered in that interaction that you had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'nevuah. We spoke about it, the different types of nevuot, right? That Shlomo had, and the interference of the body. So now the body is saying, if this is Hayafa Banashim, you're the most beautiful one. Let us align ourselves. All these kochot that we've been fighting you all our lives. Let us align ourselves. You're so beautiful, so that together we can actually connect to him. Beruach HaKodesh v'nevuah. That's Ana halach.
The body, sorry. The body at the end also is asking to get united.
Yes.
It stops the fight.
No more fight. There's no more fight. At this point, at the end of the 5th perek, there is no more fight between the body and the soul. Everybody is aligned.
As we studied in Kohelet, that also starts when the person is very old. And the Yetzer Hara starts losing
Could be.
influence because the body has no strength.
Nachon. In that case, I mean, he's 52 years old, right? So it's different, but it's a different madriga. It's not because there's no more strength to the body, so by default there's no interference. Here it's all the strength and of the power and vivacity of the body is so imbibed and aligned with the emet that it's willing to adapt itself to the way the neshama connects to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in order to elevate itself to Olam Haba. And so it says, if we're going to talk about nevuah, this is what we will do. And if it's not nevuah, and instead it's ayun v'hakira, if it has to be through the da'at, if we need to align ourselves so that you have tzlilut da'at, clarity, you can use your brain to go to depth and understand the emet, and through that emet elevate us. We're with you. Either way, we will adapt ourselves because this is what we want. And so Shlomo HaMelech, the neshama, Dodi yarad legano. The Kadosh Baruch Hu came down in his gan, legano, in his garden, not in every garden, in his garden. Ma kavana, says the Malbim, Kadosh Baruch Hu came down to take me with him. But he is now in his gan, in his own garden, in the garden of the neshama, in the garden of ruhaniyut, in the garden of kedusha, that it relates to him, legano. Akavana, Kadosh Baruch Hu at this point is not kivyachol, cannot come down to the level of a gan, of a garden that includes the kochot of the body. It's not legan, legano. What relates to him in the build-up of an individual. La'arugat abosem, to the bundle, to the bed of spices. He says a bundle of spice. The bed of spice, says the Malbim, is naturally made of what? The bundle, the bed, where you put it. Usually you put 5 different types of spices that you grow in. That's how much you can put, 5. 1 in each corner and 1 in the middle. Like the number 5 in a dice. And he says, B'ma zacha Shlomo HaMelech, what was his zechut? To have HaKadosh Baruch Hu come to a darga, to a level of arugot abosem. Says because these are can get the 5 the aruga that represents the 5 types of bosem of spices. He says are thanks to the 5 Barechi Nafshi David HaMelech wrote in Tehillim. 5 perakim you have Barechi Nafshi et Hashem. And Barechi Nafshi were all said by David HaMelech referring to the neshama. And this is the Bosem Ha'elyon. This is the smell of the Riach Nichoach. This is why the smell, we don't make a beracha. It's so high, right? It's so powerful, the Bosem, the smell of the spice, that you can never satisfy the body. So you're going to make the first beracha, but you can never make bracha acharona. right? You cannot make bracha achrona. You eat, you're satisfied. You drink, satisfied. You smell, it's so intense, so powerful, so spiritual that you can never feel satisfied. You can keep on smelling and smelling and smelling. This is the level of the neshama, says the Malbim. And bizchut, this connection, that connection is what what allowed HaKadosh Baruch Hu to go down to that level. That was the level that was crystallized and acquired. So depending, what do we see? Depending on the level you bring down HaKadosh Baruch Hu to, that is the level that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be able to come down to take you. There is a Maseh, Serach bat Asher. Serach bat Asher, the daughter of Asher, Tu Shelo Meta. She's one of the people that never died. Never died. Serach bat Asher. The Midrash says that in Parashat Vayigash, the Midrash tells us that Yaakov Avinu aya b'tzar. He was very sad for the loss of Yosef. And Serach bat Asher came in, and she started dancing and singing in front of Yaakov Avinu. Od Yosef dodi hai. My uncle Yosef is still alive. Vehu moshel al kol eretz Misraim, and he rules over all Egypt. The Midrash tells us right away, Samach simcha gdola. Yaakov was very happy, and b'zchut this simcha, Ruach HaKodesh came back, Nevuah came back. What did Serach bat Asher do? She took a besorah to, she brought to Yaakov the most basic hana'ah, the most basic pleasure, which is to inform of a good news. That's all it was. She came, she was happy, and she knew how to convey to Yaakov Avinu the news that Yosef is still alive. She sang and she danced in front of Yaakov. She used her body, she used her emotion, and she used her speech. She brought HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the way down to that madriga, to that resolution. Chachamim tell us, Serach bat Asher alta begufah. She never died. She was zoche to elevate herself begufu beneshama. There's a story, I don't know if it's true, if it's not true, but that's what people say, Persians. They say that 450 something years ago, 450 years ago, there was a ruler in Persia that wanted to wipe out the community. One day he's hunting and he sees ayala, he sees a gazelle running. So he ran after it. And it went inside the cave. And he went inside the cave. He said, okay, he trapped it. He's going to kill it. And the story says that the cave closed itself. And that gazelle, that ayala, turned into Sarah bat Asher. And she told him, Ani Sarah bat Asher. Or you cancel your gezerot, or you never leave this cave again. Chazar b'tshuva, and that story was heard, and known, and he was so moved that he allowed the Kehillah to build a Bet Knesset inside that cave. ככה אומרים. מעשה that the Persian community shares. You see, Sarah Bat Asher never. She. What did she do? She brought simcha. How? By knowing how to share good news. So we said, Shlomo HaMelech in Mishle says, "Ubesora tova tedda shenatzel." Good news revives bones, says Shlomo HaMelech. When a person brings good news to someone, he allows the person to get out of his darkness. He allows the person to get out of his dikaon, his depression, his tsar. Everybody has retzonot, everybody has thoughts, everybody has things driving him crazy, push, and we get lost. When you meet someone, the first thing you want to do is share good news. If you share with a person good news, you open his heart. You bring simcha, and that's what brings the Yeshua to that person. And that with that we can understand what the Gemara says. Greater is the zechut of the one that shows his white teeth to his friend than the one that gives him actually milk to drink. Right? By bringing the good news, by bringing simcha to a person. This is the reach nichuach. This is the bosem. So Shlomo HaMelech was able to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu down to the level of the neshama, to the reach, right, where the bosem is. Lir'od baganim. And he says, through that connection, and that's the answer. Through that connection, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will now take all the mitzvot, all the machshavot, all the divrei Torah, and we'll see how we can break down the body and bring back each part of the body to its core yesod, to its core essence, and bring tikkun to the body. Meaning, what brings menuha, what brings yishuv to the body, is all the Torah, mitzvot, u'ma'asim tovim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take, and through that see how he opens the nod of each part of the body and brings it back to its yesod. Li'od baganim. And says the Malbim, and why is it so important to bring back the body to its yesod? Because when Tehiyat Amitim will come, if the body is back to its yesod, it will come back with its full beracha and its full purpose. Versus the body that cannot go back to his yesod, that will come back distorted the way it was put back down, with a hisaron. So this is why the mitzvot have in it all the goof, right? Ramah Hevarim v'Shasa Gidim. And through that, the mitzvot and the Torah and the Kiruma mitzvot of Ramah Hevarim v'Shasa Gidim, the Ramah mitzvot aseh v'Shasa mitzvot lo ta'aseh, right? The 248 mitzvot aseh, 365 mitzvot lo ta'aseh. The person is able to imbibe and infuse his entire body beruach haTorah ve'akdusha, for the entire body to go back to his yesod, for it to come back with Hiyat HaMetim maleh, from and be rebuilt from the yesod, from the shoresh, from the root, versus someone that does not have Ramah mitzvot v'Shasa mitzvot lo ta'aseh. It will be rebuilt, but not from the yesod. It's like you build a house, but you don't build it from the foundation. Crooked. maybe that is a good opportunity to say, what can a person do? The Gemara says, Maseret Shabbat, Daf Samech Gimel, Amud Aleph. Kol amikem mitzvah kema'amara, eno mevasrim lo basrut nutuvot. The person that does mitzvah like he's supposed to, he never hear bad news. He will never hear bad news. There are 3 mitzvot, according to the 3 mitzvot, that if you do it, you accomplish all the Torah. The first mitzvah is the Mishnah in Pe'ah, Aleph Aleph. Okay? Talmud Torah can get you learn Torah, you accomplish all the Torah. That's all. The second one says the Ramban, Yishuv Eretz Israel. When you live in Eretz Israel, you're making all the Torah kula. The third one, it's a Gemara in Masechet Nedarim Daf Kaf. It's a Gemara in Masechet Menachot Daf Gimel Amud Bet. It's a Gemara in Masechet Shvuot Daf Kaf Het. And the Rambam brings it la halacha in Ilchot Tzitzit Perek Gimel halacha Yud Bet Yud Gimel. The Rambam says it's a Chachamim mitzvah tzitzit. A person does the mitzvah of tzitzit. Every time he has a tzitzit on him, is mekayem all the Torah kula. So simple. How do you mekayem the mitzvah tzitzit kema amara? The way you're supposed to. By the way, that explains, that's one of the te'amim, and this also explains, I'm not going to go into it, but the Bach in Ilchot Tzitzit, the Mishnah Berurah brings it in Siman Het, Ot Yutet. The Mishnah Berurah Ot Yutet brings there the Bach. It says 3 times in the Torah, it says Lema'an, 1 for Sukkot, 1 Iman Yedu Dorotechem, 1 למען לא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, תפילין, למען תזכרו, ציצית. 3 times. He says the Bach, these are the 3 mitzvot. The person has to have kavanah. And if he doesn't have the kavanah, the proper kavanah when he does the mitzvah, b'di'eved yatsa. That's the Bach. The Gaon lo maskim im ze, that's the Bach. So maybe that's one of the te'amim of why the Torah is so specific about having the proper kavanah b'tzitzit, because shekula can get kol Torah kula. Because when you do it, you do it also. How do you do mitzvah tzitzit kema'amara? Besides from the fact that you're wearing it. So the Chatam Sofer in Torah Moshe, Parashat Korach, he asks the question. He says, you take tzitzit, yeah? And when you make the bracha, you look at the tzitzit, you look down. Every mitzvah, you have to look up. You don't look down. Why do you look down? So says the Chatam Sofer, because the mitzvah of tzitzit is to make you humble. You have to be shafel. You have to look down. Right? This is what the mitzvah of the tzitzit is. The Gaon on the Rambam, Halacha Yud Aleph Yud Bet Shama, he says, he brings Beshem Rabbeinu Yonah in the Sefer HaYirah, that there's 2 te'amim to the tzitzit. Number 1, to remember, you see it and you remember all the mitzvot, the responsibility of doing mitzvot. And also lotatu, so that you don't get distracted by the futilities of Olam Hazeh. Yeah, and you don't let your heart take you in all directions. So the
tzitzit is gadol and katan.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's why we wear the katan. That's why we wear the katan. At the time, they used to put tzitzit in their garments, so it was with them all the time. Today we have the tzitzit katan because we don't do the talit. We only wear it during the tefillah, right? But when you wear the tzitzit, so when a person puts tzitzit be'anava, and he remembers his obligation to do mitzvah, that's how a person is became the mitzvah tzitzit. Kema amara. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says in Masechet Menachot Mem Gimel Amud Bet, Zoche lirot pnei hashechina. Whoever sees is zoche to see pnei hashechina. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat writes, Daf Lamed Bet Amud Bet, in Masechet Shabbat, that the person that wears tzitzit, as zahir b'tzitzit, the person careful with the tzitzit, זוכה ל-2,800 עבדים, כשמשיח יבוא. גמרא. בוא, ברוך השם, ברוך השם. So this is how you can מקיים the mitzvah כתיקונה. Right? So by doing a mitzvah like this, you allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu לעתיד לבוא to come and take from that mitzvah the or, the kedusha of the mitzvah, to bring the yesod, to bring the entire body to its core yesod, in order to build the beit hadash, to build a goof, a body that is shalem, that is complete. Complete not the way we understand complete, but complete the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it. That's for the body. That's lir'od baganim. Velilkot shoshanim. He says this is the neshama. This is all the neshamot ateorot. This is all the sparks of kedusha that the person brought to the world. This is the kedusha, the nefashot, the neshamot that HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes it, and that he doesn't use it for a purpose to come. This he keeps with him. He implements it kiviyachol within him. And then answers the neshama, ani ledodi vedodi li. Says, now start the mitat neshika. I am him and he is me. Aroe bashoshanim, I'm tasting. This is Shlomo HaMelech tasting now mitat neshika. He feels the fusion with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ani ledodi vedodi li, haroe bashoshanim. Haroe bashoshanim, and he's wandering in the lilies. He's wandering in the. I see he's wandering in the garden of flowers, meaning I see how I'm tasting the mitat neshika bizchut those flowers, before those maasim tovim, that the Torah, the kedusha of everything that I've done makes me taste the mitat neshika and this fusion with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ani ledodi vedodi. That Bezrat Hashem gives us a good atchala on the first 3 pesukim, right, of Perek Vav Bezrat Hashem.
Wow, I missed this.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Beautiful. Ah.